There's an article on Newsweek.com that states only 2% of Hispanic voters refer to themselves as Latinx, while nearly half find the term to be, now this is half, offensive. Adrian, for those who may not know, could you please give us the definition of Latinx?
Latinx. According to the Oxford Dictionary, it's a person of Latin American origin or descent used as a gender-neutral or non-binary alternative to Latino or Latina.
So if the majority of a culture embraces and doesn't embrace a certain term, should it be implemented in mainstream culture? That's the question I want to ask you, ladies. So what do you think?
Yes. Yes, it should. I absolutely believe that it should. I understand that, crazy enough, guys, if you hear these numbers, according to Pew survey, only 23% of Hispanic adults have ever even heard of the term Latinx. Yeah. So to say that 50% of us are offended and 23% of us only have heard of it is interesting to me. To say that it's offensive, I don't think it's offensive to move with the times. Is it difficult? Is it hard to learn these new terms and use them on a daily basis? Yes, I think it takes some time to get used to it. But if you're offended, why weren't you offended when we just called everyone in general Latino? When you use the term of like a mass of Latin people, you say, oh, ¿a dónde están mis Latinos? Where's my Latinos at? And that is the male version of it. If that didn't offend you, why does Latinx offend you?
Well, it doesn't offend me, but for me personally, I don't know why everything has to be modernized. Like when we started saying African American, I didn't like that. I'm not from Africa.
Yeah.
I'm Haitian, right? So for me, I feel like, why do we need to do all this stuff? Why can't we leave things the way they are and really focus on inclusivity and not necessarily the name of a group?
Well, because I think we're talking about culture. And it's Latinx. That's what the
yeah, it's Latinx if you're saying it in Spanish. It works both ways. But I'm saying
I want to talk about
is,
the symbol of the X.
Yeah.
The X symbol is used to denote something mysterious or unknown meant to be solved. And I think that some people, like Malcolm X named himself X because he did not know who he was, which is the meaning of that.
Okay.
Well, I don't think that's the case here. Latinx was asserted mostly by people who are gender non-conforming. So if you don't identify as, like Latino, when I talk about myself, I'm not talking about myself as Latinx. I identify as a Latina. So that's fine for me.
Why they're saying that they're offended because they want to be known as a Latino. Don't name all of us Latinx.
I think that it's okay if you're speaking about yourself. Why does it offend you?
About yourself, but
you're allowed to call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
But the administration, like the Biden administration, they're using this term.
So it didn't bother you to call you men in general, but it bothers you to call you X. Do you get what so when you speak about Latinos in general, like I don't even know how to say it. When you speak about Latinx, previously we would speak about them as Latinos, which is male.
Or Latinas.
If it was all women, then you would say Latinas. If it's mix of men and women, it was Latinos, which means the male was dominant. So it just, and people had an issue with that as well. They didn't like, if you talk about, again, I am not one of those people. I never found offense with any of it, but I stand by people who did find offense, and I think that it's not easy to move with the times, but it is necessary. I think it's fair to not call people what they don't want to be called.
Black people
so
been called
it don't bother me.
Negro, colored, black, Afro-American, African-American. Now we back to black.
Yeah, I like black. I'll stick to black.
Yeah.
I just think this is how it usually happens. This is how I remember it happening.
Okay.
At one point, we were called African American. That was no. Before African American, it was black, and so then Jesse Jackson, I'll never forget it because it was on TV one day, and he said, "From now on, we are descendants of Africa, so we will be called African Americans." And then everybody started, doing that.
Right.
So somebody is gonna have to say, "Okay, I'm the spokesperson."
Yeah, I think most people who use the term just look for opportunities to just be progressive, and they also are looking for opportunities to be inclusive. And me personally, I always want to be a part of the ever-evolving group of people who are trying to be inclusive
so you don't mind
and progressive.
Latinx.
I do not mind it. I refer to myself as Latina. Is it sometimes, do I catch myself and I'll be like, oh yeah, Latinos, and I have to remind myself, oh, we're now going by Latinx, which can be annoying.
But that's a personal preference.
But yeah, it's a personal preference. And when we're talking about people at large, like a group, the perfect example is actors. When you're talking about a group, It is actors, which is technically the male version as opposed to actress.
Yeah.
If at some point, I'm not trying to give nobody no ideas here, okay? Where we're like actor X, I don't know. But I think it is fair to try to move in a direction that makes everyone feel comfortable. And for some, change is uncomfortable.
It's all relative in what you prefer.
I don't think the intention behind Latinx is to offend people. I don't think that was the intention. It was to be.
Would you
the
say that
intention was
African
to say
American was
inclusive.
intentional as well?
No, I don't think. I think they thought they were being.
But it's. I almost feel like it's to make someone else feel comfortable that they come up with this. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like
because
you don't want to be called Latinx, and I'm not saying that you don't. But I feel like it's somebody else putting that label on us.
My whole point is I don't know what to call y'all without being. I don't want to be offensive. So
well, if you don't know, the best answer is Latinx. If you walk up to
but they just
what appears,
no.
50-something% of people didn't like that.
What I'm
So why
saying
people
is,
like
in
that?
this day and age, when we are having people that are coming forward and saying how they want to identify themselves, the honest answer is you don't know anymore. You don't know how to approach someone. If you are talking about someone who may appear to be of female gender, right? But they identify as whatever it is, you'd be safest approaching them and not calling them a Latina and instead saying
what about
Latinx.
Hispanic? Can I say Hispanic?
Now that's a whole different conversation. Because that has to do with Spain and who conquered what. That's a whole other conversation.
Hold on a second. Can't you go up to the person and say, what would you like me to refer you to?
And that's fine too. That's an option.
But what I'm saying is like when we say something about a culture,
yes.
What are we gonna say on this show to represent the Latinos or the
Latinos?
So
that's
see,
what I'm saying.
if there may be some women that are like, I'm not Latino, I'm Latina.
But that's what I'm saying.
The safe answer is
what's the safe answer?
Latinx.
So you're gonna go up to a 70-year-old Latina woman and you're gonna say, you're gonna refer to her as Latinx. Do you think she's gonna be?
Until she tells me to do otherwise, I think that is the safest.
Okay,
Wow,
can you
okay.
ask, what about can I ask you about the Hispanic? What is going on with that?
Hispanic means people that came from Hispaniola. It's
Well,
very
that's why
complicated.
I didn't want African American.
So you don't want to be so then.
Well, technically.
What?
Well, you aren't African American, but everyone that is of black descent at some point descended from Africa.
Okay, Charlize Theron is from
South Africa.
Is she African American?
She
yeah.
Okay.
She's from Africa. She's from South Africa, and she's American.
But then
which is why we went to black.
That's the big question between ethnicity and race.
Exactly.
Which is a whole other conversation that she's not black,
but
she
don't
is
want to be
African.
offended
Does that
people.
make sense? I know there absolutely is a difference between why some people refer to themselves as Hispanic and others refer to themselves as Latinx.
So on this show, we're gonna say Latinx.
I would prefer it unless somebody said something different. I have no problem being referred to as Latina because I also refer to myself as she. Do you know what I'm saying? But if you don't know, Latinx, I think for a group of people works just fine.
Of people.
Yeah.
Okay.